What's up, guys? Thanks for joining. So, I'm just doing a voiceover of this because initially what I did was simply just recorded it. And I didn't want to give you all mic sounds from that night building this computer. So, here we are. We're doing a time-lapse build tonight. And you can see I'm just trying to find all of my pieces of the motherboard here so that I can get this thing built. Looks like right now I'm searching for the CPU because it's usually the first piece I like to install on a board. Just get it out of the way because it's typically the most, well, I don't want to say most dangerous, but most high-risk part to install. So they're pretty straightforward. I've done a great deal of them in my time, so not tough. Now this next part was tough. I struggled a little bit. I haven't actually installed in one of these ASRock Steel Legend boards yet for the AM5 socket. So this SSD mechanism was really throwing me. I hadn't seen one like it, but I guess that little round nub at the front there, it actually just pulls back like that. Yeah, see? Yeah. Had to be smarter than it. I was looking for ways to actually like push down a tab and pull it off or something like that, but that wasn't the case. So anyway, I got the peels off. I put that back on and then opened up the RAM. Get that installed here in short order. Click and click. There you go. Give any of your satisfying sounds. So anyway, I like to box things back up for the most part and give customers back their boxes just in case warranty is a thing in the future that they need to pursue. Put it all back together, put down. Okay, so at this point I'm doing now the top-down view for you. Now, I apologize. This camera sucks. This is one of my not-so-great cameras. Of course someone's at my door. Give me a second here. Okay, I'm back. So this is me installing the board in the case. This camera doesn't like to focus, as I was saying, but you're going to see that I open up this plastic box that was inside the case. This is where all the screws are stored. They give you little tabs so you can sort out the screws. I wasn't patient enough to do that, so I just dumped all the screws in one thing, and I started pulling them out and putting them in the board. And this looks like there's like water on the camera because the camera just refuses to focus. It's really obnoxious. It's one of the things about these depth step cameras from Amazon that's just not the greatest. But I digress. This part goes pretty quickly. Yep, I was just showing you. Yep, all done. Super fast. And then I break out the cooler. I struggle with this cooler for a little bit. I'm not going to lie. This part was actually kind of challenging just because this customer had reverse direction fans. So it was my job to try to figure out what that meant in terms of airflow because I had to think backwards for everything. So it ended up looking really nice in the end, which you'll see at the end here if you stay tuned for the rest of this. And there we go. Blah, blah, blah. Pull out the cooler. Take off these old Arctic fans since we're using some custom fans. The custom fans are a little nicer. They're Thermaltake fans. You probably will see the model on it. On the boxes as I start taking them apart. I got a little confused here. I was like, oh boy, these fans are stuck. We're not gonna be able to use them. And then I was like, wait, I need you to bear in mind that I started this build at like 10:30 at night, and then so my brain wasn't all there. This actually took me 3 hours in total because it was so late in the evening, and I wanted to take my time doing that. I enjoy building PCs. I don't like rushing. So, but building in these lianli cases, they're pretty nice, but you got to be smarter than the case. And I think the next part you're going to see here is actually me needing to be smarter than the case. And you might not see it very much. I fiddle around a little bit with the radiator. I don't know what I'm doing here. I guess I'm sitting there on the probably responding to customer messages, honestly. Okay. All right. So yeah, at this point, I'm inspecting things and seeing what my next steps are. I think I took a quick breather there. I'm going to take this top panel off just because it makes it a little easier to access everything while I'm working on this. So I remove that top panel, remove all the little screws. Oh no, the cooler fell down. It was fine. It looked like it fell really hard, but it didn't because this is all at 600% speed. So bear that in mind. And then that's me trying to get the radiator in, and it doesn't go in. And I fiddled with this for a while, but I eventually discovered, oh, flip it around, and that'll work. Yes, but then here's my next mistake, okay? Watch this, guys. This is the part that it really just was the icing on the cake for me. You know, I was like, okay, the radiator goes this way. I got all excited, and then I took the screws, as you'll see here momentarily, and I screwed the radiator into the back plate there on the case, as I should have. But really, I needed to have mounted the new fans to it already, because there's a cable management channel on the side of that radiator mount for the case, for those fans. This is me screwing screws in, wasting your time. You know, you live and you learn. I was also watching Mad Men on the big screen while I was working on this computer. My wife is out in the theater room. And in fact, during this build, you might see her pop in for a brief moment to give me a hug and see how I'm doing. I don't know at what time that is. And this is me putting a couple screws back in that I took out that I didn't need to for that front panel. And sometimes building a computer isn't necessarily all just getting it right the first time. Now, I've built a fair number of computers where everything I've gotten was right the first time, you know. In the end, I always send the customer home with a working computer that's done right the first time. I never, all of my shortcomings are usually discovered within probably, I don't know, the first 5 to 10 minutes while I'm actually building the thing. And I think this is where I came to the realization, oh, there's cable management holes there. Oh, no. And then I started unscrewing the radiator from the back plate there. And that's me trying to explain it in super high speed to you, but you don't have the audio for it, so. There we go, me unscrewing it, discovering my mistake. See, the thing is I caught it on the first fan. If I had gotten all 3 fans in and then discovered it, I think I'd be a little more annoyed. But then I took it out and I just installed all the fans and got to it. Screw, 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 screw. I think there I realized I grabbed one of the non-reverse direction fans. Good times. Another reason that this took so long is I had a cold while I was working on this thing, and so it's going around right now for some reason. But I had a cold while I was working on this thing, and I stopped to take some breaks, some drinks, and so on and so forth. And now I got the radiator all put together. Now I realized, okay, I can manage those cables right through that hole. And there's 3 of them. There's 3 cable management holes for the fans. And just shove them all through there. Now this does become a big old rat's nest in the end. And I intended to show everyone my cable management work. It actually came out really slick at the end of this build. But unfortunately, I think I just might have forgotten to turn the camera around. There's some nice bracketry, and the lianli cases actually have some Velcro straps built into them. Not all of them have that. I know Corsair and lianli typically do. So if you buy a Corsair or lianli case, you can look forward to that. NZXT has them too, if you buy an NZXT case. And this is me just putting the radiator, screwing it back to that back plate, and then we move on to the next part. And yes, I do still have a little bit of the cold going, so if I sound a little stuffy, I'm sorry. Okay. No, I haven't started on the other fans. This is me getting the cooler mount mechanism going. So pulling those original, the back plate stays on. The same back plate is used for move the camera so you could see a little better. Excuse me. Same back plate is used. And in fact, one thing I really like about this is that back plate seems to be kind of stuck in place on this ASRock board, which is just kind of not a thing with the AM4 boards that I've seen. So we'll see. I'm actually going to be doing another build video of my own theater room PC build. And I'm curious to see if my back plate is going to be stuck to my board as well. It really makes it a lot easier. Now this looks like I just sped through this and it was super easy. Man, I wish I could say that was the case. You know, what you're not seeing here, if you're not paying super close attention to what I'm actually doing, is initially I had tried to put the plastic on top of that screw and on top of the bracket, which didn't properly space it, so I had to redo that, but I'm kind of past that. So doing my thermal paste application, and the actual pump assembly is ready to mount, and you have to compress those screws pretty hard to get them to actually go in. I learned that the hard way with that left one there. It was kind of a tough one, but it went in. I got it eventually. And then I put that on a little prematurely. I didn't realize I had forgotten a cable. Put the lid on because I'm thinking to myself, oh, I'm done with that part. Done with mounting the cooler. All good to go. And then it's fine. I mean, like, the next part's not a huge deal. I basically just forgot the wire that goes from the cooler to the fans to run everything. I pulled out that. I was ready to tip over the computer and start working on the bottom fans, which I thought I was going to do, and then I was like, wait a minute. Maybe I was like, wait a minute. Oh, and then, yeah, the whole screen shifts up because I realized that you guys are out of frame a little bit, so sorry about that. Plugging in the USB cable for the front I/O. And I'm plugging in the HD audio for the front I/O. And then while I was doing that, oh yeah, that's the USB-C for the front I/O. So much I/O, and then the power button connectors, or the front panel connectors, period. What's next? What's next? Come on. Pick up the pace, man. 600% is not fast enough. Let's go. I think what I'm doing right now is actually daisy chaining those fans together. There is a 3-way fan splitter for that cooler, and I'm putting that together, putting the RGB cables together, that kind of thing. And then I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, I'm missing something. And then I found this, which is the actual signal cable for the cooler itself to go to the CPU fan header, the VRM, and the AIO pump headers on the board. I think there's an RGB cable that comes off of that too, for the RGB control, if I'm not mistaken. But I always like to manage it back through the hole and then pull it back in and hook it up to the fans. And the reason I like to do it that way is because it just gives it a cleaner look. It makes it look like it's popping out. There's not cables just like hanging out into your case, you know? So, and right here I'm just plugging the fan cables in. There you go. So the third cable I didn't plug in until closer to the end because I didn't know what the VRM cable was for. And then I did a little Googling while on this video and discovered that that can just go into the CPU fan 2 header. There's my wife giving me a hug. And then she figured out she was on camera and she ran out. There you go. It was like, oh no, you're recording? Don't record me. There's that RGB. I just plugged that into the header. Kind of trying to explain what I'm doing because I know at all angles you can't always see. I think next what I'm about to do here is work on the bottom fans. The fans were really the most time consuming part of this build. Not gonna lie. It was a lot of arranging the fans, wiring them up. Yeah, and I think this is me Googling that VRM cable and where it should go. Open up some fans, pull them out. I know that bottom plate has to actually pop out of there, so that's about what I'm about to do. Okay. Take the screws out. I'm not really sure why it took me so long to put this part together. It feels like it takes forever here. In reality, it took... Well, it did take forever, but it's just screwing all the fans into this one bottom plate here, making sure they're evenly spaced and facing the correct direction. And then that little plate falls in on top of the cooler, but no big deal. Oh no. Not really sure what I was doing there. Smiling because something on Mad Men was funny. And continuing on, mounting that second fan. I hope you guys aren't bored by this. I mean, my commentary is probably not the most exciting, but put all the screws in. You always put all the screws in from the bottom so they don't show in the case. Plus they're not long enough to go in through the top. There go. Everything's looking good that way. Just a test fit, basically. That's what I was doing there. Open up the last fan. Watch a little Mad Men at the same time. So I can mostly listen to Mad Men while I work if my wife is out in the main area. And I love it when she's down here while I work because it allows me to like listen to her commentary, and if she wants to talk to me, you know, when I'm just sitting in here working, she can. If I'm down here alone, it kind of sucks. One benefit to working from home, I suppose. And you saw the time on my watch said 12 something. It's been, I don't know, probably an hour and a half since I started it. It might have been later than 10:30 by the time I actually started the build. I don't really remember, to be honest with you. I could probably figure it out if I really wanted to, but alright, now all the fans are mounted. I'm shoving this thing back in the case. I'm actually trying to route the cables through their channels first, or at least roughly where they're going to pull through. That way it's not a big deal when I do get this plugged in where it belongs. And you pop one screw in and the whole thing holds in place, and then pop the second screw in and pop the filter back on, and then go to the back, pull the cables through, and voila, magically everything is beautiful. So my next step is these back fans. Right? Oh, no, I'm gonna manage the cabling a little bit here. Plugging things in. It's weird to see my own facial expressions while I'm working on this stuff, because I don't really know how I look when I'm actually working on everything, you know? So I think what I'm doing now is I'm plugging in fan splitter cables, which you probably can't see at the bottom. But those bottom two fans that are in the front there are run off of one channel fan header, and then the back one and the rear two are run off of other channel fan headers, so like channel 2 and channel 3. So that's what you're seeing there. Back two fans haven't been mounted yet, so okay. Oh, I'm just looking at his RGB header here. The not RGB header. I'm sorry, guys. I'm looking at the RGB splitter that he bought, which wasn't necessary. So we didn't end up using it in the case at all. Yeah, and there's that rat's nest I was telling you about. Excuse me. It's not perfect by any stretch, but I haven't exactly done anything with it at this point, so after the fact is when it gets better. This is me just working on putting those rear fans in. And I did. There were originally like a couple of hard drive trays down below. I pulled those because nobody really uses the 3.5 inch hard drives anymore. Not in a build like this anyway. It seems silly. I mean, they still include a spot for them, but they're not used. So didn't bother. But by the end of this, I can successfully flip that little door where the SSDs mount closed successfully, and everything buttons up nice and tidy. So I think I put one more fan in here. One more. I think I'm doing some more fan cabling. Fans galore on this build, that's for sure. Put that in front of the camera for a split second to show you what they purchased. It's a 4070 Ti Super that they're putting in this build. I don't know if I already mentioned it. Probably did. CPU was a 9800X 3D, and then they've got 32 gigs of RAM in this guy. So it's going to be a nice build. The SSD, I believe, was a 990 Pro. Samsung 990 Pro. I had to turn that around so I could actually see where it was going in. I like to give you guys a good view, but sometimes it's more important that I see so that things don't get messed up. You see me driving the screws through. Still kind of a neat view. Now, normally, after I get the board in, the power supply is the second thing I'll do. But with this one, because I had so many fans, I figured I'd get cracking on the cooler as the second thing. It worked out pretty well that way. But power supply is definitely what I'm putting in now. You can see it's in my hand there. So it was pretty nice. Quick, easy mount in that in the back channel there. I move some of the fan cabling around. Now, like I said, I'm not sure you guys actually see the cable management after the fact, but I'm sorry if that ends up being the case. I do spend some time doing it. You can kind of see me fiddling with things in there. And pull that 24-pin connector through, plugged it in. I think next I do the CPU power up top. Probably see that little white thing pop out. Yep, popped it out. Plugging in CPU power. Look at how quickly my hands are moving. It's unnatural. And again, had to turn it so I could get a better vantage point on it, but got it in. Looks good. And last but not least, power for the GPU, which this is just that little 12-volt connector, because this power supply is ATX 5.0. If you're running an AMD GPU, you'd probably still have those standard PCIe connectors. And I ran that too high, and then I ran it too low. And then, so you'll see me plug it in here and then change my mind. And then I pull it back out. And then I run it a little higher, because there's this GPU support bracket that's kind of built into the case, and I just wanted it to be above that. And then you'll see me pull the cable back a little bit. It doesn't impact the fans at all with operation or anything like that. It's out of the way of both the GPU fans and the fans that are on the bottom there. We're getting super close to the end, guys. Less than a minute. So if you've liked this content so far, please give it a like for me. give it a like and hit that subscribe button for me. That way you can get updates on the next things that are coming out, because I've got some pretty exciting videos coming out. I'm doing a build for my theater room, which has a 7900 XT and 9800X 3D, and then it also has it's in a mini ITX form factor, because it's meant to replace my Xbox that's sitting out there. So I will share all of my results with you too. All right, so I'm just putting the glass panel back on here. Power supply turned on. There you go. This build is all done. And like I said, if you liked what you saw tonight, well, not tonight because it's not nighttime, but if you liked what you saw in this video, give it a like. Thanks for watching.